Oh, we're calling them in, y'all. We are calling them in. If you didn't realize what we just did, we just called in our ancestors. Yes, we did. This is Aletha Williams coming to you live with a beautiful, phenomenal, another agent of change, Jeniffer O'Neill. And so, allow me to introduce you to this beautiful, beautiful soul. Jeniffer, oh my goodness, she has an eclectic, a very bountiful bio. Jeniffer was born and raised in New York City. I was Jersey girl, exit 163, I think. Jeniffer has her undergraduate degree in business administration and continued her education to become a trauma psychotherapist in 2012. She has trained crisis advocates, attorneys, community organizations, and Pima County correctional officers on the impact of sexual trauma and sexual trafficking. Jeniffer currently works at a private practice, facilitates workshop, local and international retreats. Jeniffer is a PhD clinical psychology program she's in a psychology program with a specialization in existential, humanistic, transpersonal psychology. You know I'm going to ask you about that. She is a proud member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Omega Rho Zeta chapter. I'm going to ask you about that, where she works as the chair of the Social Action Committee. She is currently serving as a board member for the Student Circle for the Association of Black Psychiatrists. Jeniffer is also the founder of and executive director of a nonprofit called Restoration Empowerment Institute. Oh my gosh, we have a lot to talk about. An organization that provides training, consultation, advocacy, and support services toward recovery for families impacted by oppression, abuse, and violence. Without further ado, please allow me to introduce to you this phenomenal agent of change, Jeniffer O'Neill. Hello, my dear.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you
Oh
for
my
that wonderful
goodness.
introduction.
You are rocking it, woman. You are rocking it. And it's funny because when we were talking right before this, I heard her son in the background as mine was in the background too. So Jeniffer has two beautiful children. Are they both boys, females?
Yes, both boys.
Both boys. Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Well, Jeniffer, I just said what you do and what you did and what you continue to do. But can you tell us real quick something that I always ask my audience? What is your why?
My why. When I was younger, I wanted to be a midwife. Things just didn't go in that direction for me to be a midwife. So I had to let that go, right?
Mm,
But I realized that I didn't need to let it go. I didn't need to let the idea of being a midwife go. I needed to let go the way that manifests, right? So
mm,
instead of me bringing babies into the world, I help bring people from one place to another, usually out of oppression, and help them birth things that have been kind of stunted in their lives. So that is a part of my why, right? My why
mm,
is that I believe that it's my calling to be a midwife, to help
mm.
usher things into this realm that need to be here, you
Oh,
know.
I love it.
Hmm.
That is why I call you an agent of change. And that kind of brings us right into what we're going to be talking about, which is a topic about the death of a vision and learning to let go. But I want to give us a little bit more background on Jeniffer because she is coming to us with a wealth of knowledge, and I cannot miss this opportunity to not go into a little bit deeper into some of your bio. So,
Okay.
so Jeniffer, you are a psychotherapist right now. You work with advocates, attorneys. You work with correctional officers. And during the time of COVID, I'm sure mental health has gotten really rough, right?
Right.
And we're talking about the death of a vision, and sometimes talk about death of a vision. There's a
Hmm.
lot of things that are changing right now in everyone's careers, in everyone's family home, in everyone's environment. So How do you, as a counselor, show up and stay grounded with yourself, but also be able to be an agent of hope and a note of hope for all these people that you're working with? And these are first liners that I'm hearing it.
Yeah, yeah, many times it is. Well, I can tell you that, I mean, I have to address my own mental health, right?
Yes.
Mental health is not the same thing as mental illness. And sometimes
Mm,
people use those words interchangeably, right? But mental health is the same thing as physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, right? So, in
yeah.
order for us to have that, we have to invest in it, just like you would invest in your physical health, right? Minding what you're bringing into your body, minding what you're bringing into your spirit, who you surround yourself with.
Mm,
All of these things help build up your mental health, right? Not pushing beyond your limitations, because we do have limitations where we have to say this is a boundary that I need to set, and I'm not going to push beyond that because I just don't have the capacity for it. So for me to take care of my own mental health and stay grounded, that meant me recognizing my own limitations. So
mm,
during last year, I mean, I lost several people to COVID, and all at once. So you couldn't just, grieve one person. It was so many people at one time, and then just being that kind of fear that was just kind of sitting out in the atmosphere, as well, right?
yeah.
So I had to surround myself with other people who were doing the same thing as I was. It's like pausing and being
Mm,
honest. And I tell my clients all the time, when the moment we start lying to ourselves, that's like the beginning of the end, right? So it's like just being truthful about where we are. I had to cut my caseload,
mhm,
and just work with certain people. And I have clients from all different um, ethnicities. But last year, I focused a lot more on people of color that needed a lot of support because we were going through two pandemics, right?
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
a racial pandemic,
Yeah.
and also this pandemic that we are still, going through.
Yeah.
So, I put my energy a little more here. I participated more in healing circles and things like that, and really pulled on things that came from my culture to help keep me grounded while I'm working with other people.
Oh wow, that's really good. I really want you to repeat what you said at the beginning of that. Mental health is not the same as.
Mental illness.
That's right. Mental health is not the same as mental illness, and I'm so glad that you point that out because it's okay to say that you're not okay
Hmm.
right now. I don't have the capacity, as you mentioned, or I know my limitation, and I need to back off a little bit for reset. And so let's dive into this beautiful topic, the death of a vision. I see it showing up throughout your life. You talk about the vision that you had as a midwife. So, well, you wanted to be a burden. You said a burden midwife. Is it a midwife?
Birthing, right? So to bring babies, right?
Yes. You wanted to be a birth and midwife, and that
Right.
didn't happen. But you're still bringing to life, like you said, the same life, the life that you wanted to bring into all the things that you're doing. You're showing up and doing that. So tell us about the death of a vision, and how can someone, when they feel like I have this desire and this passion to do something, but yet it seems like it's dead. How do you bring
Mhm.
it back, or do you let go?
Mm.
What are these steps that we go through?
That is such a good question, because it's like, how do you determine when you need to let something go, right?
Mm,
Um, that's a really good question. We have people who, I'm an entrepreneur, and, as entrepreneurs, I'll take a risk. I'll have this whole vision of how something should be. And I can keep working at it and working at it and working at it. Why is this not coming off the ground? Right.
mm,
And And at a certain point, if it becomes something that is more it's more harmful to hold on to, right? Like if your family is going to be impacted by you
Mm,
holding on to this vision, if you're going to lose everything and your family is going to have to sleep in a car in order for you to have this vision, then maybe it's time to let this this vision go at least for a while, right? To kind
mm,
of step back and see, like, is this supposed to be happening right now? Right?
mm-hmm,
You could have this vision, but maybe the timing is off, right? So how do we determine that? Well, if it's causing us some harm, then maybe we need to let it die,
mm-hmm,
or at least put it on the side and refocus ourselves, right? But letting that vision go, the reason why I like the term death of the vision is because sometimes we have this picture in our mind of how things are supposed to be. You
mm,
know, I'm supposed to be married by this date, supposed to have kids by this age, supposed to have this money in the bank. I'm supposed to be doing all of these things
yeah,
and having this vision in your mind, which we need a vision, right?
yeah,
But sometimes that vision can almost become like a cage where it locks you into something and you can't imagine any other possibility.
mm-hmm,
So when it's trying to manifest itself differently, because it doesn't look like the vision that we have imagined for ourselves, we reject how it's trying to come out, you know?
mm. So this you're just speaking exactly what I think without we're free flow in this interview. And so one of the things that you just said it right there. A vision sometimes is identify what people want, and sometimes that vision we hold on to it with our life's grip. And at some time we have to understand that we have to let go. And one of the things I heard you said is that what is the impact? That is a very big question to ask. So there are some questions we need to ask. And so when I ask you this, what is the first step to the process is how is it impacting you, your family, and whoever else is it's impacting is very important. What are some other questions that we can ask?
Mm, you know, does this vision require you to think in a narrow scope? Like, it doesn't allow you the space to think more broadly, right? and,
Mm,
and and the reason why I think that's important is just like I said, how I wanted to be this midwife, and if I stuck to this narrow scope of this is what a midwife is, this is the definition of it, and if my life doesn't go this way, then I've missed the mark, I've wasted my time. Well, no, I had to broaden the scope of what is the definition of that, right?
mm,
Right. So yeah, does this visual allow me to think broadly? That's the question,
yeah.
right? Does it allow me to be able to conceive things in different ways and knowing that
Mhm,
it may show up a different way? And you just have to be able to see it, right? When we lock into something so much, we can't even begin to imagine that it could look different.
mm. As you're speaking, your energy completely just went woof. It actually almost like so you know the name of my business is called Inner Star Compass Healing. When you find that inside gratitude and energy, oh boy, your energy just completely just refocuses your compass towards a healing path. And
Mhm.
so that is just beautiful. That's another question is how do you intuitively feel about the vision?
Yes, yes. Because if it doesn't move you, it's not the right vision. You
So
know?
I'm going to put that on there. So tell me about a time when you've had to ask yourself these questions other than the midwife because
Mhm.
you have other things on your bio, my dear.
Yes, yes, yes. I've had to ask myself this question many times, right? And because sometimes we can fall into patterns or someone else's vision for us, you know,
Mm.
and trying to complete somebody else's vision. I'll give you an example. So I'm a licensed minister.
Mm.
And I've had someone say to me in the past, you know, when are you going to open a church? When are you going to do this? When are you going to? And I'm like, I don't think you understand. Like this, what I do every day when I go to work, that is my ministry.
Hey, there you go.
Right? That is my ministry. They could not see it that way. And I had to kind of shut them down and end that conversation because they were trying to put their definitions, all their stuff on
Yes,
me. Right?
right.
So that me being able to say, you know what, no, this is my entire life is a ministry. What I do every day with my children, with my family members, with my clients, that's all ministry, right?
Yeah.
So it's learning how to broaden, the definitions, and when I'm sitting with a client, and then all of a sudden I'll see something because I am a seer, right? So I'll see where I need to go with the client, and I'll go there, and then you can feel everything just move and shift. Like we just went to a whole deeper level,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And then they'll say like, I've been in therapy for 15 years and I haven't gone this deep so fast in this short of a time,
Yes.
right?
So
So
yes.
all of that absolutely is everything. It's me being.
Yeah. Oh, girl, you just keep on preaching, my dear. And it's not preaching. And so that's something I want to say. You're not preaching. You are living. Every cell, everything that's coming out of your mouth is connecting to me. And I am sure when my audience listen to this, is going to connect to them as well. You mentioned something really, really good. Two things, but I'm going to start with the first one. You talk about the fact that you're a visionary. Can you expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I can see um, from A to Z many times.
Mm.
Like soon as someone comes to me with an idea, I'm always running it through my mind, like how I could see the whole thing kind of playing out, right? And
Mm.
and then when they say, "Well, what do you think?" and I'm like, "Oh, I think that can work." I've like
Mm.
run the whole thing through, almost like a preliminary thing, but being able to see something and have a vision for it, and I think that also kind of, because I could be a little idealistic sometimes, right? But it's learning how to work with that, right?
Yeah.
And being able to see like, this is how we can birth this, right?
Mm.
Seeing the path of birthing something, it's
Mm.
typically what visionaries will do, right? So okay, I see how we're going to do this, just like if you were going to have an actual baby, and the doctor says, well, here's some of the risk factors that could pop up when you're having its birth, so let's make a plan to deal with this just in case, right? And being a visionary has a lot of that, right? Where
Yes.
you can anticipate some of the barriers that may pop up, right?
I absolutely love it because you know what? I recall. May I share a story?
Sure.
I recall when I was in the military, when I was in engineering school, they would say, "Take this drop of oil and trace it through the entire ship." In order for me to learn the process of what happens when it gets to this tank or when it gets to this pipe, how can I prevent it if there was a catastrophe? How can I stop it from going further down the line? And so the visionary is not is that was mechanical.
Mm-hmm.
Your visionary gift is completely energetic, and you're moving energy as you creatively dance around the things that you're seeing. So that is just phenomenal, and I absolutely love it. But a part of that that you mentioned, as you were saying, that when someone else is trying to have you live their vision, you said two things that really touched me, and I don't think you said it outright, but you tapped into the fact that your core values says no, I'm going to go this way. So when you said no, you are establishing a healthy boundary with those people that are trying to tell you to go this way. So
Right.
it sounds to me, and this is the question I'm going to ask, is when you're establishing or trying to rebirth, maybe, I mean, let me ask the first question. Is it even when we feel like the vision is dead, should we just let it die and just rebirth something new, a new version of it? Or should we try to revive the one that we think is dead?
Well, you know what? I think sometimes we have to ask the question first is, why did it die in the first place? Like,
Mm.
right, what caused the death? Yeah. Because sometimes it needs to die. We start putting our hand in there and trying to manipulate things to make things happen a certain way. And sometimes it's almost like we taint the soup, right? You know,
Mhm.
we put things in there that don't belong in there.
Mm.
So it kind of shifts things, and then that's not what's trying to be birthed, right? So we're
Mm.
trying to birth something that really shouldn't even be here right now. So sometimes that needs to die, right? And then sometimes we have to learn, okay, I see where this went off the rails. I see that I tried to make this into something that it was never designed to be.
Mm.
So let me go back to the drawing board, to the purity of it, right?
Mhm.
To the purity of it and birth that.
Nice. So, do you think at that point now, when you make that decision, I mean, that is a beautiful question. Why did it die in the first place? And the lessons that learns that came from it. Now, do you think core value is a part of working on the vision?
Oh yeah, absolutely, right? Because core
Mm.
values is it's the foundation, right? And a
Mm.
lot of times when we experience a lot of distress, it's because we moved away from our core values, or we never really established what they are in the first place.
Mm.
And I'm right now. I'm working in a correctional facility, and that is one of the first things I do with the inmates. Is I help them establish what are your core values, and do you feel like you've betrayed yourself?
Mm.
Right? Have you have you walked away from the things that meant so much to you?
Mm.
And usually the answer is yes.
I'm going to stop our question because I'm going to go into the picture and into the place of someone in prison where they feel like all of their control is gone. And yet you're trying to tell them that they have a vision that's worth being heard. How do you do that? That sounds so extremely difficult, but yet you do it often.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And this is again the midwife, right?
Mm.
Is getting the person to even just imagine that what's possible is possible. So I start with, I want you to look at the clothes that you're wearing, right? I want you to look at the chair that you're sitting in. Somebody had to imagine it first before you could even sit there, before you can wear those clothes. It had to start in somebody's imagination first.
Mm.
So then I give them some homework and I say, I want you to start using your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to start thinking about, what if these things were not barriers in your life? What would you be doing? If
Mm.
there was nothing that could stop you, what would your life look like? Because you have to spark. That's where the seed starts, right? Again, right? You have
Yeah.
to spark something where they begin to see it,
Yeah.
because they can't even move forward. They won't even know what it looks like until they start to see something, you know?
Right. Right. So let's go back to core values. And to you, can you explain to our audience? Some people, they're like, core who? Core what? What is core value?
So there's an exercise that I do all the time, and I have people write down the top 5 things that you couldn't imagine in your life? What is important to
Mm.
you, right? So sometimes somebody will say God, and I'll tell them, I said, listen, don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Tell me what you really think, you know?
Mm.
So then they may go back and say, oh, my family, education, travel, whatever. And they'll go through whatever their top five is. And I said, okay, now I'm going to ask you to give me one. I'm going to take one from you. You're going to have to actually give it to me. You're never going to be able to get this back. What are you willing to
Ooh.
separate from?
Ah, you
And
really push them.
yes, and they're like, "What? No, I can't give up, I can't give up my family, or I can't give up God, or I can't give up, travel. I need it to survive. I can't give up this." So, and then I'm like, "Oh, sorry, I got to come and get one more." And they're like, "No."
This would be me.
Yes.
Whoa, back up.
Yes, yes. I've had some people get really angry and say, "This is not fair. I don't want you to get," and I'm like, "Look, what? This is all imaginary right
Mm.
now, but they feel threatened, that
Yeah.
I'm coming for something that they really want." So we get to their top one, and I said, "Okay,
Mm.
I'm going to let you keep it." And a lot of times their top one is something that they didn't think would be their top one.
Mm.
Sometimes they had one was something else. Let's say one to them was before was loyalty.
Mm.
But then when I start taking things away from them, their number one might be, love, or their number
Mm.
one might be honesty.
So once we get to our top one, what does that mean?
That is the number one priority, the number one thing that you really, really that means so much to you, right? So
Yeah.
then my question at that after there, let's say it's honesty. Then I
Mm.
ask, have you been living according to your most sacred core belief, your core value?
Ah.
And then they go, no, no, I've been lying to myself. I've been lying to my family. I don't show up when I'm supposed to. I don't do this. You know, I don't keep my promises to my kids. I don't,
Mm.
and they may run down and say, okay, so what do you think about the fact that you are not living up to your most sacred value? What do you think about that?
Mm.
And they're like, I've really gotten off track. Okay,
Mm.
so this is the when we start like lining, like kind of reminding ourselves, you know, these are my core values. And then we look, am I living up to my own core value? This is not the core values that somebody gave you. These are the ones
Mm.
that you actually believe, and this is the
Mm.
ones you've determined for yourself. Are
Yeah.
you living according to that? And if the answer is no, well, that is the source of much of your distress because you're betraying yourself.
I like to tell my clients that once they identify their top five, and sometimes it takes them a while to come around to five, I like to tell them once they understand that, they will understand why they're triggered. They will understand why they're angry. They'll understand why they get frustrated because things aren't where they're expecting. So you're so right. This core value is tied to the root cause of your reaction
Mm,
in reality.
yeah.
So where do we go from here?
you know, are your core values included in this vision that you have for yourself, right? Let's say, and this is one that I hear a lot. Sometimes I'll hear from men and women, like, I should have been
Mm,
married already, how come I can't find a partner, or so I'll hear that from men and women, but I tend to hear it more from women. How come I can't find this? And
yeah.
okay, and then they start looking at, how they've chosen partners in the past. And sometimes how they've chosen partners in the past don't reflect their core values either.
Mm,
Right.
mm.
Or they may have chosen a partner based on, can this person get me to the fulfillment of this vision that I have. So if I have a vision of this beautiful wedding and I have 5 bridesmaids here and this person is marrying me, and the person that you see standing across from you that you're marrying has no face, because the vision the vision is really just all that you want. It's not even about the other person. The other
Right,
person is just showing up to play the other character standing across from you, right?
right.
And these are like some things that we have to be honest about. Like, do we want this vision so bad that we're willing to put anybody in that spot
Mm.
to wear the dress or to wear the tuxedo?
So at what cost do you, yeah, at what
Yeah,
cost?
yeah.
Wow. So in making this soup, so I heard the core values and I hear um, how far you will go to get it. So what else is in that ingredient?
Mm. And you know, being able to let the vision die or to birth it,
Mm,
right? To We have to figure out where are we, where are we, if this vision is holding us back, if it's impacting us in a negative way, and we need to let it go. Okay, well, how about the vision now include, instead of I need to couple in be and have somebody just to say I love you, how about I just say I love you to me right now and have the vision just be about me, you know, um, developing, growing, and then just letting things kind of happen. And it's okay to have a plan and all of that, but we can't get so locked into the plan
mm,
that we ignore potential things that um, could bring us a lot of joy, but because it doesn't look the way we see it,
mm.
we push it to the side.
I like that. So flexibility, is that what
Yeah,
I'm hearing?
absolutely.
There's something I want to show you. You know, when we talk about the values, you hit the nail on the head. And the outcome, you hit the nail on the head again. I also added behaviors and your motivators and strength and challenges and support in there. Can you expand a little bit on the behaviors? Because I know you got this. This is a surprise question to you, but I know you got this.
The behaviors that, if we are trying to have a vision come to pass, or we definitely have to look at our behaviors. Now, one of the things that I had just mentioned is, are we trying to manipulate an outcome to make something happen, right? And once we start doing that,
Mm,
I think it gets us in a really like murky place.
yeah.
And it's like, at what cost am I willing to do something? Am I am I, again, ignoring my values? Am I just so I could get the outcome, right?
Mm,
So if my behaviors reflecting my values, or my behaviors staying in line, right? With that I think that is very, very important, because a lot of times what we do can set things in motion that we don't necessarily want to be
yeah.
set in motion.
You know, it's funny because I put motivator before strength, but I think you need to have strength before you can be motivated. Uh, what do you think? And then again, this strength is defined by you. So what if you're thinking this strength is a strength when it's not?
Mm, mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And again, look, it's that definition, right?
Mm,
Oftentimes, let me tell you, I've been doing trauma work for a while, going up onto a decade of just doing straight trauma work. And I tell my clients the area that you consider your weakness is usually your strength.
Love it.
It's and I say, "What's your superpower?" And they say, "What are you talking about?" I said, "What's your super?" When people say, "Oh, I'm too sensitive," I said, "No, that's your superpower. That's what allows you to connect to other humans and feel and have compassion, and like that's your superpower."
Nice.
So a lot of times, the things that we think are our strengths are not always. Some of the things that we think, that's nothing,
Yeah.
ends up being our place of strength.
I love that. I love to tell myself I love embracing my weakness because it just shines through me,
Hmm.
and immediately my vibration shifts. Or oh, thank you. I look forward to seeing what you're gonna bring to me because
Hmm.
I wouldn't have noticed that unless you showed it to me. And
Yeah.
so that positive psychology, that positive word, the positive mantras, it really impacted me on my mental health,
Hmm.
especially during some hard times.
Yeah.
Talk about
Yeah.
trauma. I've been there, done that, lived it for too long, and had to spiritually connect inward to that intuition and really ask those deep, deep questions.
Hmm.
What is it that I really, really value?
Right.
Absolutely love it. So, what are some challenges do you think that might come up when you're trying to birth this vision?
Oh, there's so many unexpected things that could come up, right? I mean, sometimes you'll have the naysayers.
Mm,
Brene Brown talks about having people in the cheap seats.
mm,
They sit in your arena in the cheap seats, and they don't care really about the outcome. They just want to watch the show. You know,
mm-hmm,
they're not invested in whether you do well or you don't do well, whether you birth the vision, whether it dies. They just want to watch the show. You
mm,
know and we all have people who are going to be in our lives that just wants to see the show, and that could be a challenge if we let them get in our ear, right?
mm.
So watching who's speaking into our ear, and who is dropping seeds in us, that can definitely be a challenge.
I like to ask people, are you and it's funny because I keep going back to this, Jennifer. Your intuition will tell you. So are they filling your cup? And that's a really good point about the naysayers. Oh my lord,
Right.
they do come. What about support?
Yeah. So in the Bible, when Mary, the mother of Jesus, goes to visit Elizabeth, they're
Mm,
both pregnant, and Elizabeth is pregnant with John the Baptist. And she goes to talk to her, and it says that as Mary's talking to Elizabeth, the baby in Elizabeth, her womb jumped.
mm,
We all need people in our life that makes our baby jump, right?
okay.
Right. It makes our vision move inside of us. These are people who are also visionaries many times,
Mm,
and they're carrying something just as powerful as we are. And just being in conversation with them and learning how they maneuver things. And a lot of times it stirs us up, right?
love it.
And it helps to give us that support, that we know that we're not alone, and that there are people who are actually experiencing the same thing, even the death, right? So when you speak to someone who, they can tell you, I had to let this vision die, I had this vision a while ago, I had to let it die. And you can find support even in the death. Well, how did you just let it go, you
Yeah,
know
yeah. I was going to ask you about that from a trauma perspective, because sometimes people, when they have to let something die, the vision, they go into this deep, deep depression, and
Hmm.
and it surprises them because they didn't realize that they were falling into it. How do
Yeah.
you How do you encourage someone to go through a healthy process of allowing the vision to die?
Hmm. You know, I guess it would depend on the person who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to somebody who is spiritual, I may take a slightly different approach.
Yeah.
You know, because it being a spiritual person, and we talk about letting something go and letting it die, a lot of times it's like, okay, well, then go back to the drawing board, go back to your source, and
Mm-hmm.
now begin to pull from that. What is this saying? What is this really saying to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of times when I'm working with people, we focus really on acceptance,
Mm.
and acceptance doesn't mean that that you like it. It doesn't mean that you want it. It's just accepting that this is happening.
Absolutely love that. That is so true. Um, One of the things I was on a trip one time, and I was at a military retreat, and we were doing some trauma centered care work, and the psychotherapist that was there, I just kept on observing, and he didn't introduce himself. He was just observing. He wasn't interfering or interacting. He was just there just in case there was an emergency, right?
Hmm.
So I would see him. He's in the pool, or he has his cowboy hat on. He's walking around the ground. So finally, one day when he was close enough, one of those days he was close enough, I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Aren't you supposed to be working?" He's like, "Yes, I already worked, but now I'm resetting."
Hmm.
So for my question for you is, you take on the load, and when I'm a Reiki as a Reiki master, I always say when I heal someone, their energy doesn't come through me and stay. I'm just a channel of ground that goes right down to the earth. It doesn't stay in me, and I will not allow it to come through me. So how do you, as the oh gosh, the agent of change that you are, take on so much, but how do you reset? How do you
Hmm.
allow yourself to self-care to show up?
Yeah, when I first started in this work, it was very hard. I didn't understand how to let it go,
Mm,
and so there are a couple of things that I would do in between, like really hard um, clients, or I should say hard sessions. So, you shake the body out. So I would, in between my sessions, I would just shake my body out. I would be moving around and jumping in and out. And then there's also certain rituals that I would do as far as like washing my hands, maybe
mhm,
washing my face, things like that in between clients. But I did learn how to do something else. I learned that I am a midwife. I hold, right, but it's not my baby. I give it back to you.
mm,
So
mm.
when I'm sitting with somebody, I'm holding that space. I may be holding that, but after the end, here you go. I'm
Yeah.
giving that back to you. And I teach my clients to do the same thing of how to only hold what they can carry in their basket, their stuff.
Mm.
Don't carry other people's stuff, right?
Right, right. Oh gosh, Jennifer, we can keep going, but I think I'm going to have you back on again. But we talk about what to do when we have to focus on the death of the vision, and we also talked about how to realize or even create a vision. What about when it's birth? Because when it's birth, you either like a baby have to completely depend on your environment and those around you to care for you, or you're gonna have to figure out how to survive. Like the frogs, when the frog gives lays the eggs, he's gone. They have
Hmm.
to find out how to survive afterwards. So after the birth of the vision, what are some cautionary things that we can do in the realm of self-care to keep the vision going, but in a safe manner where you feel safe, grounded, protected, and have all those hierarchy of needs met, so that when you are developing processing your brain, that is a healthy way?
Yeah.
It was a long question.
Yeah. And it's like it's multidimensional, right? So just
Yes.
like a baby, right? It's like you're gonna lose sleep in the beginning. You're going to, be like, "What did I do? What is it?" And you may even question if you're capable, right?
Right.
And it's just really kind of keeping that support system and realistic goals for yourself, right? Is like
Mm,
again understanding where your limitations are and knowing when to ask for help, where our ego doesn't get in the way, right? Our ego says, well, I birthed this thing. I should know how to do this, and I should, and I should, and I should. And it's like, okay, I birthed this thing. Now what? Okay. So sometimes it is, okay, I thought I knew this, but I don't. So let me
mm,
ask for help. Right. Or I thought that, I was good at this thing here, but I
mm.
need to become more proficient. So let me ask for help. Let me take a class. Let me do something. Let me build my skill. Whatever it is being able to always understand that there's somebody who knows a little bit more than you, and
Yeah.
being open to even mentorship, being open to someone who can just come alongside and check you. Like I have people in my life that, I've tasked them with, if you see me getting too far out there, it's okay. I want you to check me.
Mm, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Remind me of why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Well, first of all, you are a first liner, first responder, and I want to say thank you. And I'm sure the audience want to thank you also for all that you do out there. Um, we're going to finish up this topic about the death of a vision. Is there anything else that you want to give us advice about the vision and creating it and birthing it and monitoring its growth and progress before I ask you some other questions to finish wrap up?
hmm I think one of the things is just to make sure that your vision, it doesn't turn out to be your taskmaster,
Mm, I love
right? um, just making sure that that vision doesn't become something that puts you in bondage, where you is so like you want to prove everybody wrong, and you want to prove that you can do it, and you want to prove and you want to prove, and it ends up being your taskmaster, and it's not supposed to be that way.
absolutely love it. So, there's a question that I ask everyone lately because of COVID, Jennifer. What is COVID teaching you right now about life and about how you're going about it?
Well, it's I think a lot of it is the reminder of just how collective trauma impacts people, and everybody responds to trauma different. Some people ignore trauma, some people lean into it and they're
Mm,
overwhelmed. But I mean, everybody has a different reaction to trauma. And so it reminds that. So when I see people do things that I'm like, what? And
mm,
I'm reminded of this is typical reactions to trauma, right?
mm,
But it also, it reminded me to slow down and, do the things that I need
mm.
for me to be okay in order for me to be there for someone else.
Nice. I got this question. I know you have this. Who do you consider as a mentor?
Oh, geez. I've had many mentors in my life.
Yeah.
Depending on what stage that I am at, I've had mentors, several mentors along the way, spiritual mentors, mentors for work, mentors in school. One of my mentors right now happens to be she just retired as the president of the Association of Black Psychologists, right?
Yes, Ethiopia, right?
Yes, yes.
That's my lady. Talk
Yes.
about agent of change.
Yeah, yeah. And so you need people in your life that's going to really see you,
Yes.
and see, okay, I'm going to push this person just a little bit, just kind of push them a little bit because I know they have more to give, right?
Mhm.
So you want somebody who can really challenge you as you're picking a mentor and not push their agenda on you.
Is it important to have a mentor? And it doesn't matter what if you're working or not working. Is it important to have a mentor?
I think so. I think so. I think because of the just the way that we're built, we're built
Mm,
to be in community, right? And
mm,
as far back as you can go, there have always been people who, especially when you have groups that come together, and you'll have the elders that may mentor the younger ones, and but I love it when the elders come and ask the younger ones, teach me how to do this, or teach me.
mm.
I love when I see that, go back and forth, because there's this exchange of information. And I just think that is some special mojo that happens.
Yeah, yeah. I like that.
Mhm.
I what what was or is your favorite book so far? Wow.
Oh, man. So that's hard for me because I'm a bookworm. And I don't know, I can't even tell you how many books I have. So
Oh.
that's really hard for me. I could tell you one books that have had a change, may cause a change in my life. Um,
Mm.
so this I'm trying to run through uh, some books. Okay, so when I was a teenager, Who Moved My Cheese was a change
Mm.
book for me.
Ah, love it.
Yeah,
Absolutely love it.
yeah.
Gosh, talk about that, right?
Yeah.
Here's one more question, and then we're going to do a rapid silly question, but it's rapid question.
Hmm.
How do you feel intuitively about your vision?
Oh, my vision is broad because I want to make space for any way it wants to manifest. But I feel like my vision just feeds my soul. It's the thing that gets me out of the bed in the morning,
Mm,
to do all the things that I do. I believe that I'm a catalyst. Like, this is what I'm called to do. Is I help move people from one place to another. And people who come into my life usually come into my life when they're ready for change.
love it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I know that even when a client comes to me, that it's not random.
Mm. So then the question, how does intuition show up for you, definitely shows up in so many different ways, right?
Uh-huh. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm always so like sad if I have to turn somebody away, like, because right now I'm writing my dissertation. So I can't take on, a bunch of clients anymore. So I'm always so sad when I have to turn someone away, especially when it's a Black woman, because right now, I mean, especially with how the climate is, it's like I want to be able to show up for our sisters, but
Yeah.
sometimes I have to, turn people away, you know.
Yes, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Um, Two more question. What do you do to raise your vibration when you sense a I can't spell. When you sense a dip in energy?
I dance.
Ooh, you're a dancer.
I take dance classes. I'll put on music, especially now that, with the pandemic, how all these different, I was taking a class with somebody who's in New York and I'm in Arizona. So I dance, and I mean, I just feel all that stuff kind of just lift off of me.
Mm. So in the same care, how does self-care show up? You said you wash your hands sometimes. Sometimes you do ceremonies.
Yeah. A lot of my self-care too will be I will just surround myself with my sisters.
Mm.
I in my bio I mentioned I'm in a sorority, so I'm now the
Yeah.
president of my chapter. And so there are times when I'll surround myself with my sisters and we'll just laugh. I mean, I love to laugh, I
Yeah.
love to cook. I read. I will try anything, like as far
Mm.
as like that's creative. So I'll even paint, and it doesn't always look. And I always tell people, like, don't look for it to. I'm not going to sell my art. And the thing about painting is that I could paint white over it, and then it's a whole new canvas all over again, right?
Love it. Love it. So this is the last question before rapid fire.
Hmm.
How does resiliency show up in your life?
Oh.
Oh,
Resiliency.
oh.
I'm a New Yorker. I grew up in New York my whole life. If you're not resilient, living and growing up in New York, going through the public schools in New York,
You're right.
yeah, you learn to be very scrappy, right?
You are so right. So how can
Yes.
we reach you, Jennifer? How can we reach you?
So I have a website that's called mysoultherapy.com.
mysoultherapy.com.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
oh, you know what? Probably need to, is it mysoultherapy.com or mysoultherapy.org? It's
Well,
I'm
we'll
really
find out.
yeah.
It's,
Yeah, I
so
don't I don't
it's
know
either
what
that,
myself
it's
so
either
far.
that or org, but that's
Yeah.
okay. So, Jennifer, this has been beyond. I need to have you on more because we want to talk about trauma when it comes to deciding when you need to go in and get more help, because a
Hmm.
lot of people hide it so much and they don't want to go in, and seriously, like you said, your mental health is great, but if you're sick, you also need to acknowledge that part and let the ego go
Right.
to take yourself in and get well. And get
Hmm.
well is the part that's birthing a
Right.
vision that
Right.
you may not have even been in touch with for years.
Right. Right. And then it
Right?
comes back and it's like, here we go. Because now you're in the right space.
Amen. Because when you're ready to receive it, it's going to show back up again.
Yes.
And so, Jennifer, before this rapid question, would you like to leave our audience with your final words of wisdom?
Oh, you know, it's just being able to be okay.
Mm.
Just take care of you and just be okay. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to, everything doesn't have to always line up a certain way. Being okay to me is just content, learning how to find that place of contentment, and because you can find joy in that place.
Absolutely love it. You fill my cup, and I'm hoping I'm filling your cup in the
Yes.
same way, because that's what we do, like-minded sisters. And so you are just a beautiful soul, and
Thank
we
you.
absolutely appreciate all that you do.
Thank
Okay,
you.
are you ready for this?
Oh boy, yes, I'm ready.
So all you have to do is just answer I'm going to give you two words without thinking, just whichever one comes first to your mind. Okay?
Hmm. Okay.
No thinking, no rolling your eyes to the left or right, none of that. You
Okay.
understand?
I got
All
it.
right. Red or black,
Red.
fire or water,
Water.
drums or piano,
Drums.
cry or dance,
Dance.
hug or shake,
Shake.
pretend or fake.
Pretend.
I almost caught you, didn't I?
Ah,
Chips or yogurt.
chips.
And the last one, love or anger.
Love.
Don't ask me what I'm doing with this, but I'm literally creating a graph on this, because I
Okay.
want to see what's going to come out of it. One of the
Hmm.
things I absolutely love about research is when you start collecting data and you let go of the data, and then you come back to the data because you have a refreshed view of it. Something through your creativity might have showed up, and I can't wait to see what shows up because of this.
Okay.
Little silly game, right? Well, we wish you so much luck with your dissertation.
Thank
And
you.
Jennifer, definitely would love to have you back on at your convenient time, of course, because I know you're a busy lady. But we're going to finish with our dance, y'all. We're going to call back, thank our ancestors and bringing them on. But we want to just thank you so much for being here, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.